team's finding a rhythm. 2 words. Naz Reid. Oh, and a dribble.
Naz Reid. Now, those of you that are Timberwolves fans are all too familiar with Naz Reid, and you understand who he is as a player, and you know the meme, and you've been on his hype train for a long time, and you've probably even shouted Naz Reid at the top of your lungs during a game or while you were watching. But if you're a casual NBA fan or not a fan of the Timberwolves even, you might just be starting to, start noticing the name Naz Reid being floated around there, or as Timberwolves just played on ESPN, maybe you heard it a few times and saw a couple posts on Twitter or Instagram. And you're like, wow, that's some good plays. Who is this Naz Reid guy? Was he really good before? Was he a highly talented recruit? What's his story? And if you don't know, sit back and we'll explain it to you. But just for my own sake, if you haven't said Naz Reid yet, just Naz Reid, go ahead and do it real quick. Just try it. It feels good, trust me. There you go, see? Nothing better. Now, let's discuss Naz Reid and his rise and how he got to where he is now. Naz Reid grew up in Asbury Park, New Jersey, where he attended Roselle Catholic High School. Following his senior season, where he averaged 14.8 points, 7.7 rebounds, and 2.1 blocks per game, Reid got invited to the 2018 McDonald's All-American game, which is pretty prestigious, and he managed to score 15 points and 11 rebounds in that game. He also scored 22 points for his high school as they defeated Bosco Prep in the Tournament of Champions, but that's not really why his high school career was important. And this might also be how or why you know the name Naz Reid, or as his nickname is, Big Jelly. That's right, Naz Reid was a part of the Jelly family. It was an internet movement focused around, crazy finger-rolled layups that looked like you were about to dunk, and then you just... Now, the original creator of the Jelly Fam, or the most famous one, was Isaiah Washington, who, interestingly enough, did play basketball for the Minnesota Gophers. At one point, he didn't find much success there and ended up transferring away. And that lack of success is actually ironic when it comes to Jelly Fam, because currently Naz Reid is the only member of Jelly Fam to be in the league. Now, Jelly Fam has kind of turned itself into a brand instead of just a group of high schoolers, so there are more Jelly Fam players in the high school circuit as we speak, and some of them may have a chance to make it to the league. But from the original group, and from therefore on to this point, Naz Reid is the only Jelly Fam member to make it to the league. So now you know that Naz Reid was, an internet sensation. He was famous before even making it to the league or even college. So that could be where, if you're a casual fan, you think, oh, I think I've heard the name Naz Reid before, and that might be very well it, because Jelly Fam was a huge thing back in the day. So it wouldn't surprise me if that's how you know Naz Reid. But Reid was also a consensus 5-star recruit, so don't get me wrong. He wasn't just an internet sensation. This guy could ball back in high school. He was considered the best power forward in New Jersey and one of the best power forwards in the States as well. He wasn't super highly recruited in the class. He was like the 22nd, 25th best player, depending on where you're looking. But he ended up committing to play at LSU. And what he said drew him to the school is Coach Wade and assistant coach Greg Healer, as all the other coaches as well, which is kind of what a lot of players say. But that's what Naz Reid said, and he had an ESPN grade of 93 when he accepted the invitation to play for LSU, or said he was going to play there. So going to a big-time school also could be how you know him. Now, Naz Reid would only go on to play one season of college ball, but he made it pretty impactful. In fact, in his debut, he scored 17 points and gave 6 rebounds, which was almost a sign of things to come. 3 days later, he actually dropped his season high and consequently college career high with 29 points. And he shot 4 of 6 behind the arc, really showing just what he could be and how different his skill set was to other players of his size and stature. In college, Reid averaged 13.6 points, 7.2 rebounds, and just under 1 assist a game. And after that freshman season, Reid declared for the 2019 NBA draft, hired an agent, and forego his final 3 years of college eligibility. Now, looking back on it, that was probably the right decision, but for a split second, he might have been questioning himself. That's because Naz Reid went undrafted in the 2019 draft, but shortly after, July 5th to be exact, Reid signed with the Minnesota Timberwolves, which brings us to where we are today, but let's not get too far ahead of ourselves, as he only started on a two-way contract, which had him also with the NBA G League affiliate, the Iowa Wolves. So under the terms of that deal, Reid would split time between Minnesota and Iowa. He also played for Minnesota in the Summer League, which is where some people really started to get a feel for him and say, wow, this guy's actually got some skill. How the heck did he go undrafted? Kind of shades of what Leonard Miller looks like. Now, different draft scenarios there, but quality players Timberwolves seem to have found in late or non-existent rounds. Reid signed a multi-year contract that same year, July 17th, 2019. He signed with Timberwolves, obviously, and then he got assigned to the G League affiliate. Reid did make his debut that year on December 8th of 2019. He scored 3 points in a blowout loss to the Lakers. But he did drop 20 points that year, or, same season. January 13, 2020, he scored a season-high 20 points in a loss to the Oklahoma City Thunder as the Timberwolves were struggling this season. Now, Naz Reid quickly became loved by the fans for his, somewhat unintentional hilarity, his serious nature, which has kind of changed over the years. But at first, he was kind of like, just a quiet, calm dude, and people really seemed to like that, and the Naz Reid name started kind of being played around as a joke, And when I first started seeing the meme, it was kind of like, oh, he's going to be MVP, he's going to be this, he's going to be that, he's really good, when he hadn't done a whole lot in the league. But as time started going on, people really realized this guy's got game. This guy can ball. Being a member of the Jelly fam, he had a great touch for a big man, and he also could throw it down with some authority, as we've seen a ton of monster dunks. You even saw some in the intro edit here today. But, Naz Reid has a lot of power behind him and finesse. And I think he fell into the perfect position with the Minnesota Timberwolves because you had Karl-Anthony Towns being the lone center originally. We'll get into the trade later. But Karl-Anthony Towns was the lone center, and while Towns is a very good player, him and Naz Reid's skill sets are similar but different. Naz Reid gives a different look, which can throw people off, and Cat has and still occasionally does struggle with foul trouble. So Naz Reid saw a good chunk of minutes despite being undrafted or unproven early in his career. He was still able to get those chances and prove himself, which he has now, and Sam will discuss later how he earned himself that big contract. So yeah, the Naz Reid meme, it became a meme, originally kind of being just poking fun. Not even poking fun, it was just funny to say Naz Reid. People just like saying Naz Reid. No real rhyme or reason behind it. It was just fun to say. But then Naz Reid actually became really good, really important to this Timberwolves team. And as Sam will discuss here soon, they gave him a big contract due to how important he is. But just one thing I thought was funny I'd bring up before I toss this mic over. When I was doing research for this video or trying to find stuff, I did type in how the Naz Reid meme came to be, and I found this hilarious Reddit post where a Timberwolves fan from Brazil was asking, around in the Timberwolves subreddit, hey, how did the Naz Reid meme happen? I'm kind of behind in the franchise stuff, and all the replies just said Naz Reid. So, how did Naz Reid earn his paycheck last year, and how has he adapted to the Rudy Gobert trade and the Karl-Anthony Towns deal? Well, let's find out from the #1 Naz Reid fan that I know in the whole world, Sam Aldridge. Last year, and how has he adapted to the Rudy Gobert trade and the Karl-Anthony Towns deal? Well, let's find out from the #1 Naz Reid fan that I know in the whole world, Sam Aldridge.
Gosh, Justin, you're just out here exposing me like that. Oh, hey. All right. I admit it. I'm a pretty big Naz Reid fan, but there's a lot of good reason to it. Now, when Karl Anthony Towns went out last year with his injury, he was sidelined for around 2/3 of the year. And the Wolves needed a big to step up, and that was Naz Reid. Now, he wasn't starting in the 4 spot like Cat does, but he was backing up Rudy Gobert, and the fans started to see what Naz Reid was all about. Now, like Justin was saying, Naz Reid was just becoming a meme in the years prior, and now the fans were starting to see the style of play that he brought to the Timberwolves. And if you've been watching these highlights as we've been talking about him, you can see that this guy moves fluidly. He's got great handle for a big man. He shoots the ball well. He's shooting around 38% this year. And, you know, that's quite a jump from last year. I think he was only averaging around 33% to 34% last year. It's pretty respectable, but he's just shooting under 40%. He was in the 50-40-90 club for about the first like 12, 13 games of the season. So, you know, Naz is shooting really efficiently. He's scoring just as many points and around the same minutes per night. And when Cat came back from his injury, we were starting to see Cat in the lineup. And then they started mixing Naz into a 3-man big rotation where Naz and Rudy or Naz and Cat or 2 of the 3 guys were always on the court at the same time. And it was looking pretty dangerous. So the last 15 games before Naz Reid was injured, he was still playing around 20 minutes per game, but he was dropping 16 points, 5.5 boards, almost 2 assists, shooting almost 60% from the field and 38% from 3. I mean, he was playing probably some of the best basketball of his career and the best basketball that the fans were seeing as well. It was a pretty big disappointment seeing him go out. And I think that him being in the playoffs, going up against Denver, wouldn't have changed the entire series, but I think you would have seen a bit more close games because he was playing some pretty incredible basketball. And him coming off the bench against Denver's bench, I think they wouldn't have had many answers to Naz, because we've been seeing it this year where when Naz comes off the bench, there's a lot of mismatches for Naz down in the post, and guys are having trouble guarding him down there. And even if it's not in the post, his downhill ability off the dribble is fantastic, and he finishes well inside, whether it's a ferocious slam or whether he's doing a jelly layup. And, you know, it's really hard for some of these players to guard Naz because he's so unique. So after the season ended, a lot of the people started saying, well, what's going to happen with Naz? What's going to happen with Cat? A lot of people thought Cat was going to be traded, in which case if he was, then they knew Naz was for sure going to be re-signed. And I think a lot of the diehard Wolves fans knew that Naz was going to re-sign. But the thing was is that he was showing a lot of reason why he could go somewhere else and be not a star player, but be one of the next good pieces of a young team. Start at the power forward, maybe center. There's a lot of teams where he would be the starter. In fact, I think maybe 30, maybe like 27 of the teams in the NBA, Naz would be the starter on their team. And I mean, you look at the starting numbers when he was playing as a starter center for the Wolves last year. He played 11 games as a starter, and he was averaging around 16.5 points and 7 boards, and those are some pretty good numbers. Now, if you actually look at the per game stats, you'll see that some games he scored like 11 points and then maybe like 12 or something, not like 24 points or even just the average 16.5. But that was actually due more so to the fact that he wasn't giving the minutes supported for him to get those stats. And sometimes you don't always have control over the minutes you play. Some fans would just say like, well, if he was proving that he should be out in the court, then he would be and be giving the minutes played and thus for getting those stats. But it's the coach's decision, and if he's not going to put him out there, then he's just not going to put him out there. So Naz definitely could have gone to another team and probably have gotten even a bigger bag than the Wolves even gave him, and started to develop himself and grow as a player more with a younger team. But I think with Naz, he feels like this is home, and the fans really love him, and they wanted him to stay, and I think that he wanted to stay as well. I don't think he wanted to go anywhere else. I think he has a lot of gratitude to the team that gave him a chance in, you know, not being drafted. You know, they said, hey, we'll give you a shot here, come and play with us. And, you know, he didn't let us down. He's shown us a lot of great growth over these years, and he's producing more and more. He's producing better this year on really high efficiency, and there's so many games where he can come out and you're scared that he can drop like 23 points on 23 minutes with 70% shooting from the field. I mean, his efficiency is just fantastic, and he produces so much for this Timberwolves bench. Now, it'll be really interesting to see what's going to happen with Naz over the next few years. They signed him to a 3-year contract, and it's interesting because the Wolves are paying their guys a lot of money. I mean, Rudy Gobert is making like $35 million a year. Cat's can be making like 40 mil plus. Ant just signed the max rookie contract extension. Jaden McDaniels is going to be making a bag, probably a cool 25 mil or so per year. And so they have a lot of players that are making a lot of money. And the question is, well, who are they going to pay? But besides that, I mean, Naz, he's an incredible player. And a lot of people are starting to know the name. And if you don't know the name now, well, like Justin said, just say the name. Naz Reid. So I really advise you guys, go watch a few Timberwolves games and watch Naz, not just the highlights, just watch what he does on a game-to-game basis. It's a lot of fun to watch him play, and it'll be interesting to see how he grows over the next few years. But guys, this will do it from me and Justin. We thank you so much for watching our videos, and you know, the recent support has been awesome. We can't thank you guys enough for what you guys have done for us. So if you want to continue to support us, please hit that like, hit that subscribe button, and leave a comment down below and tell us what you guys think of today's video. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.